What's up guys, it's Cyberfelon, and as most of you know, this past Friday some big changes were announced on how we will be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2017. And today I wanted to go over some of the new changes to try to help clarify some things. First off, we have a new extra deck monster type called a Link Monster. These monsters are easily identifiable by the arrows surrounding the card art, having a link value in the bottom right corner, along with not having a level or defense. These new monsters can only be special summoned in attack position and can never be changed to defense position. An example of one of these new Link monsters is Decode Talker, a dark Cybers type Link effect monster with a link of 3, attack of 2300, materials of 2 or more effect monsters, and an effect that states this card gains 500 attack for each monster linked to it. When an opponent's card effect that targets a card you control is activated, you contribute one of your monsters linked to this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. The effects aren't bad and the summoning conditions are pretty generic, only needing 2 or more effect monsters to summon it from the extra deck doesn't seem too hard to pull off. But you're probably still asking yourself, how do you link summon a Link monster from the extra deck? Well, that's very simple actually. To special summon a Link monster from the extra deck, you have to link summon it by sending the required materials from the field to the graveyard, whose total number of materials equals the link number on the card you wish to link summon. So in the case of Decode Talker, you can link summon him by sending 3 effect monsters from the field to the graveyard, each one counting as 1 link material. Now, there is a way to reduce the amount of link materials needed to link summon a Link monster, and that is to use another Link monster. A Link monster can count as multiple link materials in a Link summon based on its link number, but you still need to meet the material requirements stated on the card. For example, you can summon Decode Talker using a Link monster with a link of 2 along with 1 other effect monster. Now I know it might sound a bit confusing, but the best way to understand this new summoning method is to think of it like synchro summoning. When synchro summoning, you have to meet the material requirements as well as match the level of the monster you're trying to summon. The only difference is in Link summoning is instead of matching the level, you have to now match the link value. Don't worry if you don't quite understand it just yet. Once the new cards come out and we start playing with the Link monsters, everything will start to click. Now on to the new zones and the new layout of the field. 2 new zones called the Extra Monster Zones have been added to the field, and you can only summon Xyz, Synchro, Fusion, Link, and Pendulum monsters from the extra deck to those zones and only those zones. Also, each player can only control 1 of the 2 new zones at a time. The original 5 monster zones are now called the main monster zones, and you can no longer special summon any monster from the extra deck to these zones unless a Link monster is linked to it. Remember the arrows surrounding a Link monster? Well, the arrows that are highlighted indicate the zones that are linked to that monster. So if you want to bring out more than 1 monster from the extra deck, you will now have to utilize the new Link monsters to expand the number of zones you can use to summon monsters from the extra deck. The other change made to the field is the position of the Pendulum zones. They are no longer their own zones off to the side of the field, but have been moved to the far ends of the spell and trap zone. So if you want to play pendulums in your deck, or a pendulum deck in general, you will now have to give up 2 of your spell and trap zones for your pendulum scales. Now an important thing to note is that pendulum zones are only considered to be pendulum zones if there is a pendulum monster in it. Otherwise, it is still treated as a spell and trap zone. Overall, the changes made to the game may seem drastic and a bit weird, but they are actually really well thought out and do help the game. The restriction of where you can summon monsters from the extra deck will effectively slow down the game and possibly put a stop to crazy turn 1 boards that can effectively end the game on the spot. There are two problems I see right now with the new mechanic and rules. The first is regarding the space of the extra deck. For some decks, the extra deck is already really tight, and adding a new card type to the extra deck that you are somewhat forced to use puts them in a bit of a tough spot. You really have to put a lot of care and attention into building your extra deck now, and really think about the cards you need to run and what cards you're only running because of the space you had. The second problem I see is that for any deck that relies on an extra deck to win will now be at somewhat of a disadvantage against decks that don't need extra decks, simply because you won't have to worry about stopping any summon outside of a link summon. This may force certain cards to be limited or straight up banned, and can even result in a complete overhaul of the forbidden and limited list. Even with all this being said, I do like these new changes, and I'm really looking forward to see how the new mechanic is going to be used and abused by the players. But that's it for me today. Now in the comments below, let me know what you guys think about the new card type and game mechanic. Also, if you want to review any of the new rules or cards I spoke about, check out the link in the description below. And as always, until next time, later guys.